Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. This video is a complete crash course in itself. I will explain everything about asynchronous JavaScript in this video, ranging from why do we need that, what is the actual problem statement, how do we solve that problem with the help of callbacks, what are the problems that we face with callbacks like callback hell, inversion of control, and how promises solve that problem. And we will also understand what is Async Await. This video is really going to be interesting. So let's get started. Let's understand the problem statement here. We have a user data array, which is an array of objects. We have new user data, which we will be adding into this user data. We'll be using update data function for that, and we'll be using get data function to get the actual updated data. Now I'm trying to replicate the behavior of all the generic APIs that we use on our daily basis. I understand that this is much simpler version of that, but it will do just fine for now. Let's try to run this function. Let's console.log get data function. We are simply getting the data that we have. Let's try to update the data that we have with the help of update data function. We'll be passing the new object that we want to append into this user data object. Now let's use console.log again and let's see if that object has been updated or not. We have successfully updated our user data with new user data that we wanted to add. Now everything is working fine. What happened if we simply put a set timeout function here, and we will add a delay of 1 second. Let's try to run this code again. So what has happened here? Is our code not working? This is the actual problem statement. What is happening here? We are running get data function and it is working just fine. Then we are trying to update the data function, which is taking 1 second to be updated, which is likely to happen in real world scenarios. Now we are again trying to get the user data which hasn't been updated yet. So it is displaying the same replica which it displayed above. So this is the actual problem statement. This is the reason why we need asynchronous JavaScript. Now we know that callbacks are simply functions which we can pass through an argument. Let's try to solve this problem with the help of callbacks. Here I am creating a nameless function which will be displaying the data that we have, and we have to update the update data function a bit to accept callbacks. Now we will be executing this callback when our data has been updated. Now we can remove this console.log from here. This is the syntax. We have simply passed an nameless function as an argument, and here user data function will be invoking that function. Let's try to run our code now. So this is working fine. This is how callbacks work. Callback functions have surely done a good job solving our problem, but they have introduced two new problems which we need to take care as well. One is inversion of control. Imagine this update data function is a third-party API. Now it is up to that third-party API whether it will call or invoke our callback function or not. It may never do it, it may do it multiple times. So the control of our code has been shifted to a third-party API. This is called inversion of control, and this can be really a serious problem sometimes. Now the second problem that callback functions have is callback hell. Let's understand callback hell. Here we are simply displaying our data with the help of console.log. What if we have to process our data, we have to format our data, and then we have to display our data? Our code will start to grow horizontally instead of vertically. It will make our code hard to maintain, hard to debug. Let me give you an example for that. We'll be using a get data function. Again, we'll be passing a function here. So first we'll have to get the data, then we will have to format the data, then we will have to display the data maybe to the UI, or there can be further processing that is required. So when our code start to grow horizontally, it start to create a lot of problems, and we should avoid that. Now, to solve these two problems, promises come to the rescue. Let's understand promises now. In JavaScript, promise attach handlers to asynchronous events like then, catch, finally, and promise has three stages. One is pending, fulfilled, and rejected. Let's try to solve the problem that we solved with callbacks with the help of promises now. Let's simply return a new promise. We'll be creating an arrow function here, which will take two arguments. Now let's copy the set timeout code that we had into this promise. Let's remove this callback, resolve this promise after everything is done. Now let's try to use this promise. We'll have to remove this callback attribute as well. Now let's pass the new data that we want to add. Promise dot then. We have three methods that we can use. One is then, another one is catch, and the third one is finally. Then is invoked when a promise is successfully resolved. Catch is invoked when a promise has been rejected, and finally runs every time whether the promise has been resolved or rejected. Let's use then for now. Now let's try to do console.log of get data function now. Clear the screen. Our code is working fine. Promises have another powerful concept that is called promise chaining. With the help of promise chaining, we can use multiple then inside a single promise. Let's try to use two then here. Let's try to run this code. As we can see here, both of our then are running. Now, what we can do here, we can even pass this value from one then to another with the help of return keyword. If you don't do that, and if you directly try to console this value here inside second then, it will give us undefined value. So make sure you return this value if you want to use it further. When we return it, it will be available in the next then block. And when we run it now, it is available in the next then block. With the help of this, we can avoid callback hell as well, because inside callback hell, we used multiple callback functions one after another. Here, we can simply call multiple functions, multiple callback functions, and that too without expanding our code horizontally. Our code will grow vertically and it will be easily manageable. So that is the concept of promise chaining. Now, with the help of promises, we have solved three major problems. One is error handling. We have a native catch block here with the help of which we can catch errors directly. The second one is callback hell. With the help of promise chaining, we can prevent callback hell condition here. And the third one is inversion of control. We see that we are running our functions directly on our code. We are not relying on third-party API to run our callback function. And JavaScript promise that it gives a guarantee that whatever there is inside promise, it will work efficiently. Let's understand async and await now. With the help of promises, we have improved and optimized our code a lot over callback functions. But what if I tell you we can further optimize it to look it much cleaner, much better and much more efficient? Let me tell you how. Let's delete this code and let's create an async function. Async function are simple function, but they have this async keyword in front of them. Now we will put await keyword and we will simply call this update data function here. Let's pass this data and that's it. Now let's do console.log here with get data. Now let's call this function. And that's it. We have turned our 10 to 12 line code in just 4 lines, much cleaner code which is easily readable and much linear and easily maintainable as well. Now this async function also uses promises similar to the promise methods that we used like then, catch and finally. In async await we do not have anything like catch and finally, but we can replicate the behavior. Now let's try to replicate the behavior of then, catch and finally with the help of async and await. Let's create a new variable here. Let's call it then. Now if we console.log this then variable, we should be able to get this value 1 here. So we have successfully replicated the behavior of then. Now let's try to replicate the behavior of catch, which is really important for error handlings. For that we can use try catch block and we will put this code inside try, and inside error we'll get the error or whatever message we'll pass in reject here. And to replicate the behavior of finally, we can simply do anything here like console.log. It will run every time, whether the promise is resolved or rejected. I feel async and await provides much cleaner and much better and efficient way to write and handle promises. In this video, we created a problem statement which asked us to use the asynchronous behavior of JavaScript. Then we used callbacks to solve that problem. Then we used promises and async and await to understand how we can solve the problems that we might face with callbacks. So hope you liked this video. If you did, please like, share and subscribe my channel.